Alright, Jeff Disher here again. Today I'm going to do something that's a complete change of pace, and I figured I'd just have something that's kind of fun on here, but also kind of interesting, and it has some neat technical ideas behind it. So, first of all, I'm in Minecraft. Of course, this is, like many other software developers, I have this kind of fun, but also what I'm going to be talking about today is how the infiniobsidian way of farming obsidian works, but also how I decided to use it in a different way, which I haven't actually seen applied before, which actually involves talking about how some redstone timing works and things like that. So it's kind of neat, and it's kind of it lets you touch on kind of the technical toys you can build in the Minecraft world. So first of all, we all know that the typical way of doing this. You have water running here, put the redstone here, and some lava, and there. I've just made the redstone into obsidian. The problem is, this is really annoying because you end up having to build these big scaffolds off the side of the tower you're building. And this is a very large obsidian tower I'm making because obsidian is useful, it's nearly indestructible, and it has a really neat look to it. So this kind of typical way of doing this. The traditional approach to it is what I kind of call the horizontal infiniobsidian molding. And I'm going to show a mechanism I've been using for this, which I refer to as vertical infiniobsidian molding. And basically, it allows you to avoid the need for the molds on the side because it drops the lava from above. Now, normally this is hard to do, but there's ways you can actually do this if you set up some redstone circuitry and some dispensers. So, I'm going to go up to the top of this tower. So this is something I decided to do was to build this massive tower of obsidian to see if I could play around with some redstone mechanisms and also build something which looks kind of menacing and is also basically indestructible. So how these work are, what I have here are just standard dispensers, and each of them has a bucket of lava in it. Now when you activate a dispenser with redstone current, when it's got a bucket of lava, it'll actually drop the lava source block in front of it. And the interesting thing is that if you then activate the dispenser again with an empty bucket, it'll actually suck the lava back up inside it. So I've actually done this and built something like this, and you can see there's kind of two levels of it, and I'll get into why that's important in a minute. But this is a simple setup where I've just used 4 repeaters, and they're all set to their maximum 4-tick delay. And the reason for this is the lava physics seems to be that what I need to drop the lava source block, wait for it to spread down by 1 block, and then pull the source block back in so the lava doesn't actually spread, because that can really screw this up. So I found that it took 16 redstone ticks was sort of the most reliable kind of delay between the calls. So you can see it's kind of taking advantage of some of the real-time-ish aspects of systems. This is how you'd actually build something like this in hardware. You'd start it, and then you'd have some timer, and then that would send the next pulse to stop it. And there's actually a lot of hardware that works a lot like this. So I'm just going to start this. Just got a button here. You can see it starts the lava, and the second pulse went through 16 ticks later and canceled it. So you can now see I've got these individual beads of lava falling down the water. And you can keep seeing those. They're working like that. You want to keep them separate, because if they're too close together, they'll actually merge together and create kind of a lava surface. And the problem with that is that a lava surface will actually fall, like the top of it falls very slowly, while the bottom of it will fall at the normal rate. So you end up with something that keeps growing as it falls down the tower and keeps getting longer. And it takes a long time for it to actually clean itself up, and it can actually spread further, which can kind of destroy the waterfall I've got here as the external part of the scaffold and things like that. So it can be a problem. Based on how far away this is right now, how long the tower is, it's actually possible to start a second set of beads of lava dropping and then go back, and then basically in between the 2 beads touching down on the bottom here, you can actually lay the second set of obsidian, or the second kind of line of redstone. So as you can see, this is now turning all these into obsidian. So it worked perfectly, the whole line is solid. And all it did was take that redstone wire that I put down, and no internal molds required at all. So no building and destroying molds, which is kind of a tedious process when you're building something very large. So I'm going to go up and talk about how this actually works and why some parts of it are important. Like things like why there were those 2 levels to it, and why you'd need to think about that if you're building a mechanism similar to this one. So, like I said before, one of the main things you have to be careful of is you don't want the beads of lava to be right adjacent to each other, because then they'll kind of merge and create this lava pool surface. But this approach allows them to actually be separate, because what you want is individual beads of lava that remain as individual beads as they fall, because then they'll fall in exactly one spot and you can predict exactly what that one spot is. So you can see from up here, there's I've got my, just to keep things quick, I've got this kind of the reduced visibility, but these things are all lined up with one block between the dispensers and the water. So that means these are directly in line. The block in front of all the dispensers is directly in line with the redstone surface that I'm laying at the bottom, and so this allows you to create a vertical molding system that actually uses no molds. So it's a lot easier to clean up, and the only problems you can run into are if you screw up something with this timing here, because you need to make sure that the redstone wire doesn't get too long, because then you can have problems where it'll be a different length depending on whether it's the initial or the repeated signal. And this can mean you end up with a lot of problems, like a dispenser that starts and then doesn't stop. And that can destroy the waterfall. So that's kind of the thing to be wary of. But other than that, this actually works fairly quickly. It's a good way of building a lot of obsidian in a very tall structure using relatively little additional scaffolding. Basically, I've just got this ring around here, and you can see the other 3 walls are finished. So the ring there is to set up the water source blocks, which fall over the side to create the water that infiniobsidian requires. And I've also got one right above where the waterfall is. And the reason for that is that sometimes the timing, I was noticing, was allowing the lava to actually flow that way. And that would destroy your water source blocks, or at the very least it would cut off the top of the waterfall, which renders the machine useless. So that's how that works. The other gotcha to keep in mind with this, and this seems to be something done in Minecraft to make sure that that it has certain kind of real-time characteristics, is that I tried originally building the entire tower at once, all 4 walls and all 4 corners, in one initial shot of all the dispensers, and it did not work. As far as I could tell, the problem seemed to be that the additional time it takes to do all the lava physics computations for all the dispensers, but to make sure that the game itself doesn't actually lose time, it seems as though it'll actually drop some of the redstone operations. So sometimes you'd end up with, very randomly, between 2 different invocations of the machine, sometimes it would work perfectly, and then the next time one of the dispensers just wouldn't shut off. And because the machine hadn't changed, that doesn't make any sense. So the only rationale I could figure out for it is that there's some things that are changing there from one call to the next. And this would be probably to make sure that none of the timing, the game itself doesn't slow down. Sure, you might drop frames here and there if something really intense is happening, but the game's speed seems to always need to be constant, and that's understandable. So again, it's just a simple demonstration of how you can build a useful redstone mechanism to build some actual things for you. And this is also, working with obsidian and lava is of course difficult and dangerous, so this allows you to semi-automate the production of one of the more complicated kinds of stones in the game, which is obsidian. And anyway, I know this is not my usual thing, but I figured it would be worth talking about because I found it useful and haven't seen other people talking about it. But it's also really neat because you do get to build some weird kind of pseudo-electronic hardware inside this virtual world. And there's lots you can do with redstone, obviously. This is a very simple example, but it's something that's kind of neat. So there's also some concerns to make sure that the button lines up. You want to test this if you're building it to make sure that the signal coming out of the repeaters does not restart the signal in the repeaters. And the way I've done that here is by making sure that the redstone dust is going straight across across behind where the button is. Otherwise, you don't want it to power this block because it'll start the cycle again and it'll never end. So anyway, it's a simple example of something neat you can do with this game. And again, for anyone who's interested in playing the game, I hope that you're enjoying it because it is a pretty neat toy. And and it's neat you can do stuff like this in it. So anyway, I'll get back to my usual kinds of talks in the future, but I figured for the long weekend I'd do something kind of neat and just kind of have some fun with it. So anyway, let me know what you think, and leave me a comment here if you're interested. Thanks. Bye.